This is Actualize Freedom, straight talk on growing clicks and conversions on Amazon FBA from people doing it every day. Now here's your host, digital marketing acrobat, Danny Kenji Carlson.
What's up, guys? So we have a special rushed episode for you of the Actualize Freedom Podcast here, and we're going to be talking about COVID-19 and what that means for Amazon sellers and manufacturers in China. There's a lot of uncertainty right now, and we have someone on the ground here in Asia. He's actually pulled up in quarantine in a hotel room in Cebu City, Philippines right now, just waiting out this madness. I'm over here in Bali, so everyone's just kind of chilled out in Bali a little bit still, but maybe that's not a good thing. But we're here to talk really about what this means for e-commerce, what this means for Amazon sellers, and not only what is happening right now, but what can you expect to happen over the next couple months. So welcome. How's it going, Mike?
It's great. It's great. Thanks for having me, Danny.
Awesome. So maybe a good place to start is, what is your experience with this whole outbreak and the crisis? Like you have a unique insight into what was going on there. Like what has happened with you over the past months and weeks here?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to share, but basically, obviously, as everybody knows, it started in China. Donald Trump likes to call it a Chinese virus, but it started in China. I don't want to get in politics, but the outbreak started there. A lot of people overseas, were talking about it. Everybody just felt like it was contained in China, like for the first month or two, right? It was like January, February. It was like a Chinese issue, and a China issue. And I was talking to I've been getting some media from this, talked to Wall Street Journal, Yahoo Finance, and everybody. And it was all about the supply chain in China, getting your products to Amazon as an Amazon seller. Everybody's talking about, can I still get my products to Amazon? Can I buy from the factories? As you and most Amazon sellers know, Chinese New Year is kind of like locked down naturally, but it was an extension of that because they didn't reopen after Chinese New Year for at least a couple weeks. So originally, the whole story was supply chain from my factory as a seller. As you know now, right, we're getting towards the end of March. It's become a global pandemic. It's shut down the demand side. Before it was a supply side issue with getting it from my factory to my US warehouse or Amazon warehouse. But now it's just flipped. China seems having it under control. The numbers are going down in China, so now it seems to be just getting started in America. And Amazon, as you know, just a couple of days ago, limited inbound shipments, which is a huge fear for Amazon sellers that have shipments they were planning to send to Amazon. I don't know if that's
so just to clarify on that, I believe that is until April 5th. That is a limit on sending new inbound shipments for third-party sellers, unless it's medical supplies or somehow related to like really high demand emergency items right now. People are just freaking out and stocking up on those, and Amazon needs to ensure they can fulfill those orders. So in my opinion, that is not going to affect things too much for sellers that can merchant fulfill or have enough stock over the next 3 weeks. Hopefully it's not longer than that. But I think the real thing to be concerned about here is the big fluctuations in demand right now. Like some categories I've heard of 95% drops in sales. I've heard of massive 3-4x upticks in sales, depending on your product category. So what do you think as far as the volatility when it comes to these massive sales influxes? Is this something that we need to get used to, or what do you see happening here?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's hard to really know. I think the big growth happening in America that happened in Italy. So in China, it was like a month or two of shutdown. In the rest of the world, we don't know. They're really trying to lock things down to control it. But I have a feeling it will last longer in the West because while we loved our freedom and as an American, I love my ability to not really have to listen to my government, not have to go into my home, not have to do what they tell me to do. They're in a way, China had a little bit of an advantage to be able to just force everybody into their home I see pictures in the news about like spring break, Miami, people just on the beach while this pandemic is being. So I have a feeling it'll be a little bit longer in the Western world because they don't listen to the government and to these notices and aren't really able to be forced. So I think it's going to be maybe until a summer issue at the earliest. So basically, I think we're going to have to adjust our forecast. Of course, like you said, it depends on what category you're in. Obviously, it's hard to change your category as an Amazon seller. We all work so hard to make our listings, to get our supply chain. So of course, if you're in some kind of party supplies, some kind of something that's not essential, you're probably going to be in a little bit of a bind for a few months. So of course, if you're I don't want to say lucky, but in the position where you're selling products that are in demand during this, you'll definitely have high supply with a high demand, like you're saying 3 to 4 times. I would say summer or onwards, even more. But if you can do FBM, like you said, for fulfillment yourself or have your own warehouse, I've been getting contacted by these third-party warehouses like crazy. They're trying to get me to either consider it for myself or introduce other people. I think people are going to be moving to FBM. I think people are not going to be able to be 100% FBA anymore, at least for, I would say, the rest of this year. I think you're going to have to go into even looking into not just be 100% FBA. You're going to have to go into I don't know about you, but I've always been telling people, have your own shopping cart, have your own channels. I think people are going to have to move to that, and especially if, we don't know what Amazon will do if it's non-essential products. But that's kind of my estimate, I would say.
Yeah, and personally, I think that when it comes to that, things are going to calm down and steady a little bit. People right now are just freaking out, and there's mass pandemonium going on. But once people spend a few weeks in quarantine, I think people will kind of gain a little bit of acceptance on what their life is going to be like for the next couple months. And a lot of those things, they're still going to need to buy things, right? People are going to be very bored and locked up. They're going to be buying different things than before. Maybe if you have a lot of outdoor activity related products, those are not going to do so well, unfortunately. But if you have products that people can enjoy, they're hobby products, they can enjoy indoors, or anything like that nature, just like things in the household, I don't see any reason why those sales will not pick up again within the next couple of weeks or the next couple of months once people stop freaking out a little bit. I also want to talk to you a little bit about Chinese supply chain. That's where your experience is really interesting here. Yeah. What do you see when it comes to the Chinese supply chain? Like, where are we right now as far as manufacturers coming back to business? I know, some of them have already started operating again, and there's a little bit of confusion around what is the current state of manufacturing in China right now after their massive outbreak.
Sure. I mean, it's changing every week or every day. I mean, it was end of February. I was talking about this last, and February was a big problem. I mean, basically all of February was Chinese New Year and the extension of it with this virus. But it seemed like since March, things have been starting to open up again. Shipments. The big problem is costs. Logistics costs are going up. You might, depends on the size of your order to your factory. Unfortunately, I don't know if you would agree or not, but the bigger are going to get bigger and the smaller are going to get maybe crushed a little bit, I would say, if you're a factory, right, and you have limited capacity to make product, and the struggle right now is to get their workers back. It's always an issue every Chinese New Year without this virus of a lot of the factory workers just decide to stay in hometown or get a new job. There's a huge turnover every year regardless, because they have that 2 or 3 weeks off of work and then they change their life or they change decisions or they don't go back. So there's always this turnover, especially with this virus. They either can't go back or they don't want to go back because maybe whatever reason. So there's the big issue, I think, is smaller sellers are going to have less power, or they always have less power to negotiate. But if you're a factory and you have half your workforce coming back and you have a whole bunch of orders, would you take the big order first to keep your big customer, or would you take the small order first to keep your small customer? Like I think you would, the answer is pretty clear, right? So I think that the priority is going to go to bigger buyers, bigger sellers, or whatever, bigger productions, and they keep their big customers, and they just maybe don't facilitate or don't accommodate the 1,000 piece MOQ orders as much as the 10,000, 20,000 piece order container orders,
And for those who just want a good picture of like how many of these factories are still closed because of this, like what have you been seeing? I know it changes every single day. Like some factories coming back, some of them are still just on extended leave because they can't get their employees back after Chinese New Year and an outbreak, right? What do you think is the general kind of state of affairs over there? Are we talking like 50% of manufacturers are back, 75%? What do you think?
I think it kind of goes, I think anybody buying from China starts to realize there's different parts of China. So there's the South Guangdong province, which is Shenzhen, Guangzhou, bordering Hong Kong. This seems to be operating, getting back to normal. The south of China seems to be back to normal. I talked to a seller, he's getting kind of crushed because he thought he was safe because he's buying from the south. But he found out just a week or two ago that his main components, right? The factory, a lot of times your factory is an assembly. They're just taking pieces from multiple other factories and putting it together. But his main component he just learned was from Wuhan. So of course, Wuhan factories are not really back to normal, not really full capacity. I would say if you're buying from the south, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Guangdong province, you're probably getting back to normal now in mid-March, late March, I would say.
And so what product categories are down there for the listeners here?
Yeah, sure. So the South is always known for, of course, electronics. The iPhones are still made down there. Anything. Guangzhou is mostly clothing. Usually, a lot of times people buy from Ningbo. You probably see on when you get an FOB Ningbo, FOB Guangzhou, FOB Shenzhen. Those are the common FOBs, which means free on board. But I would say electronics are okay. I would say certain clothing is okay. But I think Ningbo is getting back. That's up in the middle near Shanghai. That's kind of also getting back to normal. But Wuhan is a cheaper place because it's inland. It's a cheaper place where people might have been moving their. Some people are like almost regretting because they did cost cutting. The south of China is the most expensive part of China for manufacturing. So you or your factory might have moved to a cheaper place inland, such as Wuhan. So. But electronics and higher cost plastics are in the south. Cheaper stuff is in Ningbo, and that's kind of maybe I'd say 50-60% back. I'd say Shenzhen, the south, is about 70%. Again, this is just really rough back of the envelope from my talking to people and factories we talked to. And then Wuhan, I don't know. I don't have so many people there that I do business with or I know of, but like I said, one seller, the factory is just not getting back to normal. It was a week ago.
Yeah, well, certainly a situation that will have to be played ear by ear and really just depending on what product category you're selling on, because it's like you said, the different manufacturing areas are at varying levels of back to capacity or not. And then also on the demand side in the United States, different categories, again, all over the place from 95% down to hundreds of percent up. So very interesting times. But I think this has been really insightful for people just to get a little bit of insight on the ground, what actually is happening in China right now, what really should we be looking out for going ahead. What is your final piece of advice for Amazon sellers during these times, whether that's something to look out for or some measures to take? What kind of advice do you have for the sellers?
So I think, first of all, don't take it hard on yourself. I talked to a lot of depressed, sellers. If you happen to just been unlucky with your category or your supply chain, I would first of all just say it's not really your fault. Maybe the fault was focus is good, But I think don't take it out on yourself. If you're one of these guys that got totally crushed with a 95% drop in your market or your category, I mean, it's just nothing you could have done better or differently. So first of all, that's the most important thing. And I think the second is really just what I've always been saying. I like to go multi-channel. I read an amazing Mark Cuban article about just being open-minded and being creative right now, right? And like before we recorded, you and I were saying, I think there's a big opportunity. As much as you listeners or viewers might be freaking out right now, what is it? There's a saying, I'll mess up the quote, but during the biggest downfall, there's the biggest opportunity. So I think keep your eyes and ears open, keep an open mind, and find maybe you're going to make a big pivot in your business right now. Maybe you're going to just drop your whole category, drop your whole product line. Maybe you're going to go to a whole new business model. But I think that's totally fine right now. Don't be set in your ways of how you did it before. I think, like you and I had said before, there's going to be a whole new world. This is not just going to go away. This is whether we get a vaccine and it goes away or not, the whole world is going to change now. The whole way we do business is going to change. So I would say try to find opportunities right now and try to think of the positive.
Absolutely. And my current attitude right now is I am honestly buzzing with excitement of the opportunities that are opening up right now. This is the time, right? You guys have all heard it. If you guys follow any kind of business mentors or read any of these kind of books, you will understand that these are repeating cycles that happen over and over and over again in capitalist society times, right? The last 2008 economic crash presented lots of people going bankrupt and losing tons of things, but also so many companies started during that time that are now the most massive companies around, right? Airbnb, WhatsApp, there's a massive list of these companies. And with every single downfall, there are new opportunities that present themselves. And you can make the choice. Get caught up, get depressed, get caught up in everything that's going wrong. Scarcity mindset, you're going to lead to scarcity decisions, is going to lead to real scarcity. But if you can focus your mindset on the things that are presenting themselves as new opportunities and fill yourself with excitement for those new opportunities and really dive into those despite all the fear that you're surrounded by, because that's the hardest thing, is staying positive surrounded by fear, then you'll be able to capitalize on them. It's really that simple. Simple but not easy, right? So thank you very much for your time, Mike. And if people want to reach out to you online or learn more about what you do, where can they do so?
Sure. So I have a business blog, globalfromasia.com, and that's talking about Asia business and cross-border trade, which has been on fire right now, and like with news and media and updates. So that's the business one. And then mikesblog.com. If you want to see the video blog of me being quarantined and treated like a refugee in Cebu, you can check out mikesblog.com. So it's the personal side.
Well, certainly exciting times here, and you stay healthy over there, stay safe. And if you guys are looking for the resources mentioned in this episode, any of the links or anything like that, head to actualizefreedom.com or kenjiroi.com/blog. You can find all of that there. Definitely reach out to Mike and wish him some safety and good luck over the next couple of months. And all of you guys, stay healthy. And until next time, go and kick some ass.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks, Danny.
For show notes and resources mentioned in this episode, visit kenjiroi.com.